G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Dag end of the Outsiders, followed by First Dog on the Moon.
Politician or person who appears to want to be a politician in Australia who's remotely a celebrity of that kind.
Well, I don't know. In my mind is immediately turning to the possibilities of a Karl Stefanovic run in 2020.
Karl Stefanovic. Doesn't he have to get a little bit crazier first? I mean, just to get that cut through that Trump has, I think. Well, we've got James Matheson from Australian Idol running.
Well, indeed we do. Tell us about that, Tricia, because he's standing in Warringah against potentially Tony Abbott.
Yeah, well, last time I heard of him, he was joining the hippies who were trying to save the trees on Anzac Parade from the light rail. And there was this picture of him in this sort of ratty old jumper getting dragged away by police. I was just thinking,
Clearly
oh my
he
goodness,
got a taste.
how far the mighty have fallen.
But this is the thing, isn't it, John? In this campaign, there's all sorts of interesting potentials, particularly in the upper house, I suspect. Despite the desire to bring order to the Senate, that this campaign, with that sort of vague sense in the community of, well, let's look for options, might throw up some unexpected outcomes.
Just over 7% of the vote to be elected to the Senate in a double dissolution.
The barriers have been lowered significantly.
Yeah,
which Miriam, I mean, this is all about avoiding that sort of situation. But a million flowers are blooming out there. Who knows?
They are. I mean, I don't really understand this. Why you'd have a double dissolution to reform the Senate? It seems to have the opposite effect. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see who gets thrown up.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it, Tricia? As we sit here now and getting towards the end of May, looking out at over, an entire month of this campaign, there's a day or two on the other side. It just seems it's imponderable.
Yeah, I think the main issue with the Senate is that I think we'll find that the main benefit is not that they'll get rid of the crossbench or anything, but that there'll just be a reset, sort of a blank slate, and they can go forward from that. But I think that there is a very real risk of some serious sort of upsets. I mean, for example, with Nick Xenophon's to do quite well in South Australia, and we
might get a couple of Lambies.
We might get Jackie Lambie's apparently not without a chance, because she's apparently very popular in Tasmania, and with 7% it was just over 7% of the vote in a state as small as Tasmania. That's not very many people that they need to get her re-elected. And obviously we've got Pauline Hanson as well. So I think this is a risk. This is very much a roll of the dice.
The Pauline Hanson thing is very interesting, but John, I guess that's what the Senate potentially is for, is to represent this wide range of views. Should we be afraid of that?
That's a very good question, and I don't think we should be afraid of it, obviously. I think it's good to have a range of views, and I don't welcome the idea of Pauline Hanson being re-elected, I must say.
That is a view.
But to have a range of more independent views may well be quite healthy. Can I just mention, Jonathan, as we're close to the end, that one of the costs of a very long campaign is that we lose touch with what's happening in the rest of the world, and there's been no discussion at all about foreign affairs in this debate so far, in this campaign so far. And this week
there is time.
There is time, and Obama was in Hiroshima talking about nuclear weapons this week, and at the same time this week there was the World Humanitarian Summit, which, as far as I know, had no reporting in the Australian media at all, despite the fact that there are 60 million refugees worldwide, more than have ever been recorded in human history before.
It's interesting that, in a campaign in particular, our political instinct is to turn so resolutely inward.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Well, as I say, there's time if they're good enough. The challenge is there, politicians of Australia. You can throw your gaze externally if you have the nerve. Thanks to our outsiders this morning, Miriam Robin, media reporter for Crikey, Professor John Langmore, he's from the School of Political Sciences at University of Melbourne, and Tricia Jar from the Centre for Independent Studies. Now, there were some logistic crises at the First Dog on the Moon Institute in this week past that precluded the preparation of fresh material, sadly. However, we thought that the dog's first dispatch from the campaign trail was as pertinent now as it was a week or two ago.
patriots, and welcome to First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living. I'm the Walkley Award-winning editorial cartoonist for The Guardian Australia, First Dog on the Moon. Welcome, listeners, to this special edition of The Guide. Today we launch our wall-to-wall 24-hour coverage of the 2016 federal election, the most important election in a generation. Our crack team here at the First Dog on the Moon Institute will keep you up to date with every fruit shop visit, every angry pensioner in a shopping mall, every encounter with a watermelon in a fluoro vest, every word uttered by every candidate in every seat, every minute of every hour for the next 7 weeks. Oh my God, I can't take it anymore!
See? That's the campaign in a nutshell. And that's it for Sunday Extra this week. If you missed anything, the podcast is there on our website or on iTunes. We're on the radio app too. Senior producer, Sample Shinowish, Claudette Word and studio production.
Yeah, right. Well, it was a pretty funny week. First up, we had the Bannanababy Joyce's "Looks Like He's Inbred with a Tomato" line from Johnny Depp, and I just cracked up at that one, especially as I was in possession of a sticker of Bannanababy Joyce doing his celebrated angry, glowering tomato face. So I made a nice little video of that using the Glenniness Examiner. And then I picked up the stickers, the bumper stickers, the Vote Green or Die Global Warming Coles stickers. And just by the way, you can take that word coals as a verb or a noun. If you agree with the Vote Green or Die sentiment of the top line, then it's obviously a verb. Global warming culls. It culls vast herds of all manner of species. If you think the top line Vote Green or Die is a terrible idea, then you can take that word culls as a noun and it applies to you. You are one of the culls. So yeah, it's a linguistically cunning little sort of a sticker. And I've actually sold enough of the damn things to have covered the print run. So to have stickers on hand in anticipation of a great flood of mail order requests for stickers, I'm going to have to go out and print another packet of Vote Green or Die stickers. And I've got me $50 back, so that can happen. Then it turned out that Johnny Depp was probably only pre-positioning himself to look like he was a really cool dude by smacking down the Deputy Prime Muppet of a sovereign-friendly nation, to wit Bannanababy Joyce the Tomato. Because about 2 days after he said that Bannanababy Joyce was inbred with a tomato, it was announced that his wife, who had $9 million in her bank account when he married her 5 years ago, is now divorcing him, and she's suing him for half of his $400 million bank account because they didn't have a prenuptial agreement. Since that notice came out, he's now facing apprehended domestic violence orders and assault charges, and he's thrown somebody's phone, and it's all terribly obviously tactical, isn't it? You know, I mean, it was a great line in the Australian election campaign, Bannanababy Joyce inbred with a tomato. But yeah, our politicians are getting drawn into Hollywood movie star divorce stories, which is kind of a bit tragic. Malcolm Turnbull is still looking like an idiot. Bill Shorten's looking pretty good. I really enjoyed Matthias Cormann, the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice stunt dummy. He's actually a Belgian rather than an Austrian, but he's a Western Australian senator, and he sounds exactly like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing the Terminator. And yeah, he forgot which side of politics he was on. He forgot the name of his party's leader. He gave a ringing endorsement and a resounding speech telling everybody what a great bloke Bill Shorten is. I thought it was great. My suggestion last week that if it's illegal for people to stand for Parliament under Section 44 of the Constitution if they are a state or Commonwealth government employee or if they're in receipt of a federal pension, therefore people should start looking into the backstory of Liberal and National Party ex-military candidates to see whether they were still in receipt of their pension. Hasn't quite panned out the way I expected. There's a Liberal candidate standing in Western Australia whose history is that he's a captain in the Special Air Services, and he's been severely wrapped over the knuckles because he's been campaigning for the Liberal Party while wearing his Australian Army uniform with his captain's bars on. Yeah, so that shot scored a hit even if I didn't fire the shot. Good to see. The CSIRO has now tallied 270 climate scientists who are being shit-canned, or maybe it's just 270 scientists and only 130 of them are climate scientists who are losing their jobs because the bloke in charge of the CSIRO is one of these entrepreneurial scientists. He claims to have personally started a company which made a lot of money selling green lasers on the American market. But today's background briefing had an interview with the American who actually started that company. And the American who was chairman of the board and managing director for 6 years before Larry Marshall, the pretender who's running the CSIRO, came onto the situation. Yeah, he went on background briefing today. So it seems that the Abbott government hired an entrepreneurial bullshit artist and they've put him in charge of the CSIRO with the express purpose of stopping the CSIRO from doing any kind of curiosity-based science. The only science the CSIRO is permitted to do is science that has an immediate short-term commercial application. It's got to be money-making science. And of course, studying climate change, global warming, the effects of anthropogenic global warming, you can't actually make money by selling that research to a company. So therefore, this Larry Marshall, the raw prawn with a cooked head, is busily intent on gutting the Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organisation because under the Abbott policy, which Turnbull is dedicated to furthering and implementing, if you've got nobody doing the science, you've got no research, you've got no data. If you've got no data, you've got no evidence that there's a problem and you can go steaming straight ahead with business as usual. Global warming is the one great existential issue facing humans at the moment. It's bigger than all forms of ideological, religious conflict. Global warming is the biggie. If we don't do something concrete, radically fast about global warming, we are fucked. We're already so fucked that it kind of looks like the forest has decided to wipe us out with Zika virus. 100 medical specialists wrote to the World Health Organization and said, you've got to stop the Olympics in Brazil. They've had a 600% increase in mosquito-borne diseases in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, where the Olympics are going to happen. And the World Health Organization said, oh, no, fuck off. We're sort of really in bed with the International Olympic Commission, and we say it's only going to raise the number of people travelling to Zika-infested countries by 0.5%. Yeah, but they're moving to the ground centre of the virus. They're moving to the place where there's most of it, the thickest concentration. So, yeah, global warming may have already decided how to solve humans and put the plan into effect. Nothing else matters. The Greens are the only party that's got any policy platform intent on reducing the amount of carbon that we dig up and sell and burn in Australia. So all the other political parties are completely missing the point. They're bullshit artists. Warbles on all at the YouTube. Ciao.